Hi everyone, today I'm going to be painting an A5 card botanical / flower piece. Really excited to see how this turns out as I've never painted onto card before. I thought this would be a really good idea for special occasions, so Mother's Day, Easter, things like that. So it's nice to do something different, and you can use this for whatever you see fit really, birthdays, anything like that. Or you can just paint for the fun of it, which is what I'm going to actually be doing today. So I've got some colour swatches. They're off camera, don't worry though, I'm going to show you the colours that I want to include today in just a second. Got all my watercolours ready, 2 jars, paintbrushes, palette for pre-mixing, and I've taped down the cards. You'll see when I take the tape off that it is actually an A5 card. I thought I'd tape it down so that it's not folding over the whole time. But yeah, let's get started. So, first, as usual, I'm going to pre-mix all the colours. This is going to be a really nice and simple piece today. I'm really excited for it. So I'm going to create 4 colours to begin with. Oh, actually, I think I might mix it up. So normally I use pink and just lighten it. I'm actually going to use red. And then lighten this up. So I've added a little bit of water to that, not too much though. And then I'm going to create a really nice earth green. So I'm really happy with this colour, but I am going to tone it down just a little bit. With some brown, and I'm only going to do this, see how tiny this little drop is that I'm adding in. Do not need a lot of the brown, that might actually be too much, we'll have to see. That's perfect. There's definitely more that earthy green this time around. Usually I don't normally add brown to this. I think the green itself is a very earthy colour, but I want to use more of a muted green, as this is going to be more of that botanical surrounding area, and I want the vibrant colours to be the flowers. So that's why I've darkened that up just slightly, and I'm going to use a little bit of a purple today. If you've not got a purple in your palette, just mix some pink and blue. Very vibrant. Got a little bit of this, it's if you've not got a green like it, I would say it's, if you've got an earth green, and mix it with a little bit of blue, so more on the colder side. I'm going to mix a little bit of that in there, see how that turns out. I think the colour palette for this particular piece, it just mutes it down a little bit actually. Anyway, so the colour palette for this particular painting is very cohesive. So we've got a lot of the bright colours. Well, saying that actually, we've just darkened the green up, but you want that vibrancy, and then this tones it down a little bit. If I can get it out. I'm really struggling with this green painting and getting it everywhere, of course. So it's made it a really cold purple, and that will be the blue that's in the green. So it's still a purple, definitely more on the colder side now though. might add a little bit of red to it just to warm it up slightly. There we go. So it's still quite a bright colour, but not as vibrant as what it was straight from the tube. And for the final colour, I'm going to mix a little bit of yellow, quite a bit actually. So I've got the yellow in there. See how bright that is. I love yellow. And I'm going to mix this with a little bit again with that red. Only a little bit, so it's created a really nice light orange. Oh, that's a beautiful colour. My swatch that I did before this video was not as nice as that. That is gorgeous, so I'm not going to touch that. So yeah, that is how simple it is. They're all the colours we're going to be using today. And yeah, we can get straight in painting the cards. So I'm going to be using, to begin with, this beautiful red colour. So I want this to be not the main colour, but I think it's the brightest out of them all. So definitely want to get straight in there with that. And I'm going to paint a couple of roses today. So I'm going to start, usually I've actually got a rose tutorial if anyone wants to see that, go in depth on how to create roses. They're really an easy flower to paint, but for this particular painting I'm actually going to create them slightly differently, only slightly. So I'm going to start with this little, I've got a lot of paint on the brush there, this little bit here, created that nice little dip that I usually do. Dragging the paint off, don't want a lot on the brush. Curving this out. And do the same this side, so the areas aren't really touching. Do one tiny little bit here. Usually I'd bring it out a bit more at the top, but I want it to be pointing more upwards today. And I'm just going to keep curving these sections out. So I'm really making sure they're all tied together. I'm not really too worried about them overlapping. Usually I'd say leave a big gap, or big enough gap. Get it as thin as you can, but don't let them overlap. But I'm actually quite happy with them overlapping today. Seeing how it turns out, I think it makes it look a little bit more rustic, if that makes sense. It's a bit more natural. See, I'm not happy with the overall shape so far actually, so I'm going to go back in, neaten this up. well, actually unneaten it. It's a bit too circular. Put a couple in at the top. I know I said I wasn't going to do that, but I think it looks a bit, just needs a little bit of that. And do one more here. So I've really not tried to neaten it, I've let it be very natural. Really happy with how it's looking actually. Might do a little curve there, might go back in with some more colour later, we'll see how we feel. Don't feel like you can't do that, just want to let it dry a little bit. And I'm going to put another up here, this time I'm going to go straight in, just put a little dot there. Curving around that a little bit. If anyone's noticed a tiny little camera jump here, unfortunately my camera just died, but it did let me know, so I've only painted a couple of extra petals, which is perfect. So glad I didn't carry on painting, and I'm just going to carry on as we were. So yeah, if you notice that there's a couple more petals, that is why, and I've not done anything differently, so nothing has really been lost, which I'm very thankful for. So I'm just painting round, getting all these petals down. I might just do a couple of little ones here that kind of come out. So I don't want it to be too big, because obviously we're working on A5 paper. You don't want to create roses that are huge, as we want to be able to add a lot to this piece, not just one thing. Want to get a lot more flowers in there, a lot more colour. So I'm being conscious of that. So it is all about value in your space, as it is very limited, which can sometimes be really difficult to do. I often find myself saying, yeah, I'll do this really small, and then that just doesn't happen. But I'm really going to put in the effort with that today. I think I'm going to use this nice yellow, getting a couple of different flowers. I think I'm going to do a couple of little ones. I'm just going to move this to the side a little bit, just because I can see myself chucking that absolutely everywhere. Put in around here a couple of little petals pointing upwards. They've got that point where it joins. Do one straight next to that. Now these aren't touching, it doesn't matter if they are or if they aren't though, if you want them to. I'm actually going to make mine touch at the end there. I'm going to add a couple more coming out from this, but still pointing upwards a little bit more. So I'm going to curve this round like so, have that point. Curves up a little bit. Now I'm not too worried about how they've bled together. Usually I'd leave a little gap, but I'm going to add detail in the centre and that'll still tie it together really nice. Might put a tiny little one here as well. So because I've made this one small, it still looks like they're all pointing up that bit more. Might just connect them all actually. So when we add that centre, that's going to look gorgeous. I'm really excited about it. I really like that flower actually. I think it looks really cute and dainty. I'm going to do a few more of these. I think I'll do one next to the rose. So I'm going to do this first petal coming out that's going to be closest to it, so I'm aware that it ends there, if that makes sense. Like if I put the first one in pointing up, it might be hard to match this one up next to it, as it could go into it, and it doesn't matter if they do overlap, but I'm trying consciously not to do that for now anyway. Put that point in. I think I'll do, instead of two pointing up, I might do two either side, shaping that top one. And then this one here. Giving this one a little bit more of that curve. I think I'll do another up here. Again, I might do it near this rose, so I'll do that first petal closer to it, just so I know to avoid that. Like I know that they're not going to touch now, and I've not left myself too little space. Hopefully that makes sense. So it is just being a bit more calculated about where things go. Whereas normally I'm like, chuck it down, see what happens. Might leave this one and not put a bottom one in. And when I add some colour to the centre, that'll look really nice still. I think I'll do another one over here. We're starting to build these colours and different types of flowers already. I think it's starting already to tie together. Still a long way to go, but really happy with how this is looking. I'm going to use this purple now. Actually, I think because this is the darkest colour, naturally, I don't know why, I don't know if this is just me, but I'm tempted to do like big flowers to make it more bold, but because this is the darker colour today, I'm actually going to do the opposite of that and keep it quite small, like these yellow flowers. I think that will look really nice. So I'm going to do a couple of these tiny little thin leaf shapes, so you can see I've painted that stereotypical leaf, and then I'm just going to fill that in. And I'm going to do another one, but I'm not going to have these touch because this is the darkest colour. I'm not going to be using any more colours. I don't want them to be touching, as I can't really do a centre of this that will overlap it, whereas that yellow we can go in and overlap that and it will still look, you'll see what I mean when I do that, but it will look very natural the way that it does sit on the top, the paint that we will be adding on the yellow. But with this purple, just being conscious not to really do that. Might put one here. So I've just done the first two petals just to let that dry slightly, just so I know not to, I'll be able to overlap it if needed, and it's not going to matter, as it will have dried a little bit. I think I'll do another one down here actually. Might do the petals a bit more diagonal. Gone in for all four this time. I was feeling brave. Notice how none of them are touching. Could actually do that on all of them, and then go in between them, so add even more petals than I initially wanted to. I think that'll look quite nice actually, so why not? So really consistent with them leaf shapes. I'm going to start adding in some of the foliage areas. So I'm going to start with this green, it's dark earthy green. I love this colour. I think it's going to look really nice and help tie everything. So coming out of this rose, I'm going to put a little line, comes down to the bottom of the page here. Not touched the top of that rose, I've actually kept them separate, keeping it consistent with what we've done throughout. And I'm going to do a couple of leaves coming out of here, so the same that we've just done with the purple actually. I'm going to make them, some of them a bit wider though. but it is very consistent. We're just changing the colours and where we put the leaves, etc. So if you're a bit overwhelmed, just try and think of it that way. It is very simple. We're keeping everything consistent today, which is nice. Filling this in as some of that green has bled in, so it would make it look patchy. So by going in and just going over that, it helps spread the paint a little bit more. Do one more leaf there. And this other side, I'm going to put another green line coming down to the same area, and this time I'm going to mix it up again. Do more of a curve on the end there. See how that it is the similar technique as in you're coming away from the stem, curving it round. It's just a bit more of a curve rather than a point, and they're a lot thinner. So again, it's not too different. Do a couple of sections coming out from there, so I might just do one big leaf, like say here. It's not going to connect to anything. I'm going to let it do its own thing. Just going to smooth that out a little bit, so a bit more paint on the brush. Let that dry. Connect. I'll say connect, it's not actually connected. I'm going to bring that down like so. I'm going to do a few little lines coming out of here. And putting a few little small circles coming out of there. I'm going to put another rose in actually. I feel like we need a bit more colour, as it's going to be very easy for the green to take over. So we've got a lot of green on the edges now. So I think I'll do a small one here. So two little curves coming out from that. Might keep that as is, it's really small, like the way that that structure's been formed. Yeah, gonna keep that like that. I'm really happy with this rose. Might do another like that actually, little small one. It's nice when it turns out exactly how you wanted it, with the small sections. Doesn't normally happen for me, so it's nice when it does. But I think that's because I consciously want things just to be as big as they can and really stand out. But this is, I love how this is turning out. So even this one, happy with how this looks. Yeah, I think I'll leave this as well. Definitely want some more yellow. Taking a look, I feel like they're all very much within the centre. There's not a lot on the outsides or anything like that. So I'm just going to do the same that we've done throughout. Two little petals there. Do a couple more coming out either side. Like so. Might do one here. These are a little bit, compared to what we've just done, a little bit more separate, but still coming into that centre, and I'm not worried about them overlapping. Some more of the purple as well. I'll do one here. And then going back to the ones that we put in earlier, because they're now dry, can overlap, get some petals in between all 4 petals that we've already put. Love how that looks. You can really see the distinction because we let it all dry. a bit too much paint on my brush there. There we go. Can neaten that up. There we go. Gonna let this one dry a bit more before going and put the other petals down. Might do a couple more purple actually. I'll do one up here. So we're really being calculated where we put these. I'm going to use this green again. I'm going to put another leaf just slightly coming out of this one. So because it's dry, it should overlap nice. Here I'm going to put a little line in, so everything's slightly coming to the centre but not enough that it's all like completely there, which I really like. So it's got that consistency of coming towards the middle from the bottom here, but it's still all very individual, which I really like. I love how that's turning out. I'm going to put a line in here. So you may notice that I have not gone all the way up, so I'm going to be putting another petal there. I'm going to put a few little lines coming out of here. A really good way to practice control, if that's something you've struggled with before. And do a little leaf, really emphasize that point. There. Thin line coming through on this one. You don't have to do that through them all. I probably won't. I just really like how that's looking. I'm going to do a couple of leaves coming out of here. So I've done a couple of little lines. I actually like that. No, I'm going to leave that as is. Love how that looks. So I'll do the same I was going to do over here. So I've done a couple of little lines. A couple of leaves coming out there, and really just light pressure and then hard pressure when you curve around there, just letting that do its own thing. Looks very natural, not tried too hard, but still come out with a very distinctive leaf, so I'm happy with that. It's knowing when to not overwork it. Might do the same over here, so 2 little lines. I'm not sure how well you can see me doing this. Sorry if I'm blocking the camera. It's mainly due to if I angle it any other way, it won't turn out how I want to. Sometimes I just need to angle it a certain way and get it down. And do one coming out here, so I've not done the line for this one, but still left a little gap in the middle. I might do a tiny little line actually, just going up to that flower. I think I'll do a little line like so. A couple of little lines out of there. And the same with them circles that I did further down. So we're starting to repeat stuff now. And do a line out of this one. And a couple of little leaves, but I'm going to curve it round a little bit more. Like so. So it's not got that point. Still, I think it makes it look more natural actually. Little line there, left a little gap between them leaves. Do one coming out of here. Fill all that in. Now if you're confident enough to keep doing this yourself and not having me guide every single step here, because it is a lot of just repeating, like this is the same as that petal down there. Obviously if you've never used watercolour before, I would recommend you keep watching, as it can be quite overwhelming, but this is a really good stage to not so much do it yourself but be a bit more adventurous. If there's a particular leaf that you've enjoyed drawing, you can do a few more of them, things like that. So I would recommend, if you're feeling brave enough, doing that. Oh, just added a bit of green to that petal, I thought it dried. So cleaned my brush to take that out, in case anyone hasn't done that before. So I've cleaned the brush, dried it. You can take away the paint. Do line up to that rose. I think we'll get a bit adventurous. There's quite a big space here. I might do this because I think that's the biggest leaf. that we've done. Do on the other side. I really like the way these little leaves look that come out. They just look a bit more naturally, so naturally, a bit more natural, with more of like a squiggly line. And you've got some that are a bit closer to the stem. Do a line. Have a big one come out here, as I think there's a lot of space to be filled. Done a line coming out there. Can do one coming out of that. So really just filling the space now. So around here, I feel like I could do with a bit more, just to fill what's bare. Maybe do same here. Couple of little leaves. I did something here. Dots. So everything's really tying together. Oh, I've gone into this one again. These purple flowers, I'm really out to ruin them today. It's the same again, pulling out that paint. So there's a couple of purple flowers where I've not connected and done all the rest of the leaves. So I'll go and do that. I love how in the centre of some of these purple flowers, oh, nearly went for the green then. Wow, I really want these flowers to be green. In the centre, sorry, I love how there's that negative space. I think it makes it look really nice. going to put one there just because of that green. I think I might add a couple of leaves coming out of maybe this one here. Then maybe this one. Try not to smudge any of the paint. I'm going to use the purple because all of this yellow paint's now dry. I'm going to go in and put a couple of little dots to represent the centre. And this purple's perfect for that. So they're the contrasting colours and they look so nice together. Just a few little dots. You don't want to overdo it because they're small anyway. And if you overdo the centre, it's just going to look really weird with small petals. It will just overtake and take away from what you've already got. So just a few. Do this one a bit off the centre, so a bit further down, so it looks like it's pointing up a bit more. There we go, really happy with that. That just ties them yellow flowers together so well. Can't believe how well it does actually do that. And do a little one here with that green. Might connect it to another one. But overall I would say this is everything that we can get down. I'm actually going to put a few little dots with this red. I feel like there could just be a bit more red. So rather than doing paint splatters like I usually would, I want this to be a bit more, like you can tell that I've intentionally put them there. I think it draws your eye to it a bit more because they'll be a bit bigger than if you were to do paint splatters, and a bit more obviously calculated, so you can see, I think your eye just naturally draws more towards it. And usually that would take away from a painting, but for this I think it ties it together really nicely. I like that you've got a couple of like patches with it. I'm going to do the same with the yellow. Also, I love how that's just tied it together. It's perfect. So something as simple as a few little dots, it just ties it together. So such a simple thing to add in. The thinner your paintbrush is, the easier this is going to be to do. This is the thinnest paintbrush that I have. Do a few here. I'm going to put in a little bit of purple as well, why not? Definitely don't think any more green is needed. It's mainly around the edges where there is that space to do so. So yeah, I'm going to leave that, don't want to overdo it, but I'm really, really happy with this. So I'm going to take the tape off, which is the best part to do. Because this is card though, I'm going to be really careful not to rip this, so it might take a while. So this actually isn't watercolour paper that I've been using, and it's not matted because this is a very simple painting. I've not really had to layer anything, I've not needed too much water. If I was going to be doing layers and adding more water, I would have made sure to get some watercolour cards, but I think this actually just makes it more accessible to you all, if it's something you want to do without having to have watercolour paper. It's just this bit you really don't want to tear the card. Oh, that tape, luckily not the paper though, so can't complain. Getting a bit braver now. It's actually not even slightly it doesn't feel like it's wanting to rip at all. Watch me do it on the last piece, but quite surprised at how it's not wanted to do that. Thought it would have teared quite easily, but there we go. Really happy with this, and as you can now see, it is a card. I don't want to move it too fast as I've still got paint that is drying, but yeah, there's the finished painting. I cannot believe how simple this was, and it makes it far more accessible to people that want to try watercolour. So yeah, I'm really happy with this, and I will be painting more cards soon. I think I'm going to do a full course for beginners on painting these cards, or maybe like a series for different events. Any ideas though, or anything that you want to see, please do let me know. And yeah, thank you so much for watching guys, and I will see you next time. Bye!